Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fetch Quest podcast, where we talk about video games and more. I am your host for tonight, Brewer, and I'm joined by my fellow co-host, Connor.
Hello!
So, how's everything been for you, Connor?
It's been pretty good here in the Bean Kingdom. Wait. Brewer, are those?
Holy crap, it's the Mario Bros. Dude, let's go get their autographs.
Wait, Brewer. How do we know these guys are the real deal? I mean, they could be imposters. I mean, they're celebrities after all.
Oh my god, he did his iconic jump. They really are the Mario Bros.
Wait, Brewer, I think they're asking for help. They need us to help them beat up this ugly, cackling lady who stole Princess Peach's voice.
Connor, how do you understand them?
I've got an Italian friend named Jimmy, alright? Forget about it.
Alright. Well, we definitely can't turn down a request from the Mario Bros, though. How about we help them on their adventure, Connor?
That sounds like a great idea, Brewer.
And alright, everybody, with that little intro out of the way, our topic for today is Mario Bros. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, the first game in the Mario and Luigi series. We're going to be talking about its story, its great combat, its charming characters. We're going to get into all that in this episode. But before that, Connor, how do you think we give the audience a little explanation of Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga real quick?
I think that's a horrible idea, Brewer. Why would you ever suggest that?
Alright, I guess I'll go throw myself off a cliff or something.
But in all seriousness, yeah, I'll handle at least the start of the explanation. How's that? Alright, so for any of those who might not be aware, Mario and Luigi is the third RPG series featuring the Mario characters. You had Paper Mario for the N64, and then you had Super Mario RPG for the I can't remember.
SNES. It was actually the first one was the Mario RPG. Just not Superstar Saga. Legend of the Seven Stars. The one with Geno, and it released on the Super Nintendo. They collabed with Square Enix. Mm-hmm. After that, on the Nintendo 64, you had the Paper Mario series. Yeah. And then, starting on the Game Boy Advance, we have our first game in the series for Mario and Luigi, where it isn't just a focus on Mario, but him and his brother Luigi and their adventures together.
Yeah, it really is just really cool how in the last year we have gotten more stuff for all three of those titles. They released they remade both Thousand Year Door, probably the most iconic Paper Mario game. Then they remade Super Mario Saga. They remade Super Mario RPG, which I can't wait to play both of those one day. One day I will play both because they both seem very, very good. But our focus today is going to be on the third of these RPGs, the Mario and Luigi series, which is actually getting a new game on Switch called Mario and Luigi Brothership, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, it does look fantastic, but for now, we're going to look at the game that started it off, the Superstar Saga. Yep. So, Superstar Saga is largely set in the Bean Kingdom, a country that is just kind of neighboring close to the Mushroom Kingdom. It's kind of populated by a bunch of bean people and just a whole lot of other wacky characters. But the plot starts off when the Bean Kingdom, they sent out some people to meet Princess Peach, and it was actually some villains in disguise, Cackletta and Fawful, who steal Princess Peach's voice for nefarious purposes. This sets Mario, Luigi, and funnily enough Bowser off on an adventure to go save Princess Peach's voice and to meet up with the Bean Kingdom to figure out what in the world's going on.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple because, part of Princess Peach was stolen this time. She wasn't kidnapped, at least not yet, but it was just part of her was kidnapped, so it's kind of you replace someone with Bowser, you get another villain. But it leads to a very wacky adventure with a lot of funny characters and just a really varied world.
Yeah, the world of the Bean Kingdom is probably my one of my favorite parts, besides the basic gameplay and stuff like that. Which I think we should probably get into that, because it's, in my opinion, it's the best part of the game is the gameplay. The story and the visuals and stuff like that are great, but the gameplay is just so next level for this game. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, I think all the elements that feed into the gameplay and combat of this world are what make it so great, because it feels like everything with Mario and Luigi's moveset was thought up to work with the world around it. It doesn't feel like they were adapted into an RPG setting. It feels like an RPG setting adapted itself to Mario and Luigi's energy.
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of what a lot of the Mario RPGs have done, with Paper Mario, that, and Super Mario RPG. But in the Bean Kingdom, it's so fun just exploring the world, because with Mario and Luigi exploring around, they have each other to help to get around. So along with just your basic jumps, the iconic jump that you use for everything, you got a whole bunch of other wacky jumps too. So you have their hammers, which have showed up in just a lot of different parts of the Mario series. And you can use those to, funnily enough, smack each other into weird objects. It's kind of like a slapstick thing, Tom and Jerry-esque. Slap each other into weird shapes to, move each other around. And then also, spin yourself like a helicopter in some points. It's just really wacky. That's the best way I could say it.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best ways to describe this game is just wacky. There's wacky side characters, there's wacky moves, and it's just so fun. And I totally agree with you that the sort of slapstick-esque both humor and animations are just, it's so good. It gives it so much charm, because they so easily could have just made it very stilted, very boring, but they went above and beyond with some of the animations and stuff.
Yeah, especially because they always have their Mario and Luigi logic. So it's okay, we need to get the jump up, but the jump is really high. So in other cases, you would maybe unlock a super jump or something, or a high jump. But no, in this game, you jump on your brother Luigi to bounce yourself up into the higher area.
Well, isn't it the other way around, where Luigi jumps on Mario?
Oh, yeah, it is the other way around. I'm sorry. I was thinking of one of the other abilities.
You got one thing wrong. You're canceled. Goodbye.
No, forget about it. I don't care. Yeah, then instead of long jumping across a large gap, you combine both of the bros to do a helicopter spin move to move yourself over a large distance while staying afloat.
It's like one of those mecha animes where they combine all of their parts to form one super thing, but it's just the Mario Brothers combined. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of the Mario power-ups that we've seen, they're kind of still here in a way, but just RPG-ified. The mini mushroom in New Super Mario Bros.
Yeah.
Instead of having that, if you want a mini Mario, Luigi smacks Mario with a hammer, and he is half of his usual height, so he can fit into small gaps. But like I mentioned, very Tom and Jerry-esque.
Yeah, it's just, it's. I know we haven't really explained the actual gameplay, but it's just, there's so much charm in this game.
I don't know if I'd say about that, because what we're explaining is literally what you do in game. To explore the world, you gotta do all this goofy shit. Yeah, if you want to get past a gate, you can slam Luigi into the ground with your hammer, and he'll burrow through the ground and eventually come up on the other end.
Yeah, we are. I guess meant more literally, with how the to explain, Mario and Luigi are tied to one button. So normally, B is for Luigi, A is for Mario. You can swap them to where Mario is behind Luigi, and so Mario's the B button, and then Luigi's the A button, and they're sort of just mapped to that. And it's one of those things I really like in RPGs, where it's simple, but there's so much stuff added to that simplicity that it ends up becoming complex, like like a slow sort of build up to complexity, and I really like that.
Yeah, especially because like with the initial puzzles, it's usually very simple. It's like, okay, use Luigi to bounce off of Mario to jump to a higher area. Okay, use Mario to spin off Luigi and to get over this gap. But then you keep getting more and more abilities. Like eventually you get fire and electric gloves for elemental stuff, and then you like get your hammers. You keep getting more and more abilities that make the world more interesting to explore because it's kind of like a Metroidvania at that point. You can go back to certain portions in the world, find stuff that you initially couldn't mess with, and then also just you have more complex puzzles later on with the dungeons as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then even better, all the moves that you've been using to explore a world are really good to use in the combat as well.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part, is that every skill you learn ties into combat in some way through the bros moves. But
yeah, it's kind of like the spells in Golden Sun, I guess.
I haven't played Golden Sun, so I don't know really how that works. But I'll
kind of just like there's a hand spell that you can use to attack, but also like you can move around stuff in the area.
Okay, I'll take your word on it. I will play Golden Sun one day, but now is the day we focus on Mario and Luigi.
Yeah, and we focus on the fantastic combat. So, like we mentioned, it is a turn-based RPG, though it's a little more involved. That's kind of a running thing all the Mario RPGs have. Is while it is turn-based, you still have to do actions within the battles to get the best effects. So, for example, a really simple one, you can jump on your enemies. You select the command instead of just watching Mario jump on the enemy. As you see him jumping towards the enemy, you want to press A at the same time to time his jump, and then you'll get an even higher damage attack. That, or with your hammer, you'll go up to the enemy. You'll wait for them to charge it up, and then you'll press A to make them smack it down right at the right moment. And that's just a really simple stuff. Right,
yeah.
Connor?
Yeah, no. And trust me, as the game goes on, it gets a lot more complex with all the stuff you have to do. But like another basic thing is like and this is probably my favorite part of it, is that of the combat, is that you are not completely helpless when it's the enemy's turn, which in a good amount of RPGs, you can do stuff like buff your evasion or decrease the enemy's accuracy and stuff like
that or like defend before they do a big telegraph attack.
You're not completely helpless, but it is completely dependent on luck on whether or not you will get hit and stuff like that, and how much damage you'll take. In this game, if you get hit, it's fully on you because you just weren't able to dodge the attacks. Because between the in enemy attacks, you can either jump over their attacks, or once you get the hammers, you can hit back or hit enemies as they attack you, and so a lot of the times you are able to fully just not take any damage on enemy turn because you timed the jumps right, or you timed the hammers right. And that's really useful because this is not a normal RPG. Like, you don't get 800 health by endgame. Like, the most health you're getting is going to be like 70 or 80 health by endgame. And that's also kind of like another thing I kind of like with this game, is that as much as I do love more basic RPGs, the fact that you are not like absolutely just shitting out damage every single time you attack is probably like it's just so cool, because like normally you'd expect to be doing like 900 damage with some of your super attacks in the regular RPGs, but in this game, if by end game, if you're doing like 50 damage, like 60 damage, you're like, oh my god, oh, let's go.
Yeah, I think that is definitely another conversation, very good conversation for another day, because that's always been a big discussion of like, should you keep the numbers lower so they're easier to understand, or do you want to have those really big flashy numbers? I think it's like definitely a balancing act depending on like how long your RPG is, and also like just the effects you're going for. Mario and Luigi, like, while it is a game that's played for everybody, it is also like it's expected that some kids will play it, so I think keeping the lower numbers are better to help them understand that. But at the same time, when I go play the Final Fantasy VII, if I'm hitting 9999 or 9999 with each attack when I do a limit break, that's also very satisfying in its own way.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I think that's definitely a discussion for another day, though, because there's a lot of heated arguments on that.
yeah, and I really like how the combat works in this game, and a very like as Brewer said is that you can jump. Once you get the hammers, you can do basic hammer attacks, and you can do once you get your elemental attacks, you can, as I said just now, you can get elemental attacks, which are pretty good. But the bread and butter, in my opinion, the best part of this game, not just the combat of this game, is the bros attacks. The bros attacks, it's just so unique. It's so like just fun to do.
Yeah,
and it
I
just
think too,
works so well.
it also takes the goofiness up to like a 15.
11.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, it takes it up to a 15 with just really stupid attacks you do on a lot of enemies.
Yeah,
Because it involves like Mario and Luigi using the aforementioned abilities, like their iconic jumps, the hammers, and every now and then their elemental gloves of fire and lightning to like team up together and do some goofy attacks. So like one of them, like one of my favorite ones, Chopper Bros. You like smash Luigi into the ground with your hammer. He jumps up and you bounce off of him. And then while you're in the air, you spin around and hit the enemy a bunch of times with your hammer to do a shit ton of damage.
yeah, it's. I think that's the advanced. No, wait, no, that is the regular mode. The advanced mode is the other one that I'm thinking of. But we'll explain advancing in a bit. But yeah, the bros moves are just so it's just so much fun to use, and these they're incredibly strong, and the reason they are is because they have you basically have a mana system in the game that are called bros points, and depending on how many bros points you have, that determines how many bros moves you can do. So in the early game, you're not really able to do a lot because you have like 20 bros points, maybe, if we're being generous. And most of the bros moves will be like cost like 4, 5 if you're doing the easiest version of them. Which is another thing I like, is that you can decrease the amount of bros points you use depending on how hard it is to execute on the bros attack.
Yeah, they have their own inputs, just like the other stuff, but like instead of a singular input, like I mentioned for jump, press A at the right moment, you'll do extra damage. For this one, you may have to do like maybe 3 A presses in a row, or A and B. A to control Mario, and then B for Luigi. Time them at different increments, but you can also like make it harder to hit those increments, like slower frames. So like on the easiest level, you have slowdown, and it will show you the inputs you need to do.
And
if
also
you bring it up to the advanced level or the higher level, then it won't show you the inputs, because at that point you should already know them. But also it's just going to play it in real time, so the timing is going to be a lot tighter.
Yeah, I think it goes they'll also like show you like colored flashes, so that way you know what, because you're going to associate the colors with the characters. And so like if you're doing it in real time and it's not showing you the inputs, then if you go off the flashes, then you're like, okay, so I need to press B, then like A, and then A again, or something like that.
Oh yeah.
But the bros move, the reason I like the bros move so much is just because of how intricate it is. Because not only do you have the basic ones, there's also some side stuff where you can learn new ones that aren't part of the story, but you are also able to do advanced versions of the bros attacks. And the way you unlock them, which I really like this, is that you unlock them by doing the bros attacks. So after you use the bros attacks a certain amount of times, you will unlock a new version, an advanced version of the bros attacks. And most of them are, in my opinion, better than the base versions, except for like one, and that's Luigi's elemental bros attack. for the simple reason is that the elemental bros attacks have secondary effects. So if you use Mario's, it'll burn the enemy, which will cause passive damage over time. But if you do Luigi's, which it's so much better because it will lower the defense of any enemy. Like a few like boss enemies are immune to it, but most every enemy is going to get their defense lowered, and that's just so game changing.
Yeah, I do think with all the bros attacks too, and then just in battle, it always feels like you have a decent amount of options in battle. Like with the stats we mentioned, whenever you level up, you don't just level up and stats increase. You have a little thing you can choose. You can choose what stats you want to focus into. It is a chance to see like how high of a roll you'll get for like how many more stats you'll get. You get like 1 increase, or you could get like a 4 or 5 increase. But it feels like there's always just a lot of options. Like you can do those strategies like defense down, or I can just keep spamming chopper bros to smack the shit out of the enemies.
Yeah, and like don't get me wrong, I love the bros attacks. I do think the advanced versions are also better because they're just kind of flashier, and I like that. Like the Chopper Bros advanced version will have Mario go, or I think it's Luigi. I'll have Luigi go under the enemy, and you will like continuously like have him pop up, slam him back down, and pop up, and it racks up a lot of damage. And it's just like it's just such a fun attack to do, and it sort of reminds me of like it feels like a very I'm struggling for the right word. Like it feels like that is like a sort of glimpse into the future for the series, because I haven't played any future Mario and Luigi games, sadly, but I do know that in future games the attacks, like the bros moves, get a lot flashier. You get like little mini game items that deal a lot of damage and stuff like that, and they're just like it's just a bunch of stuff like that. And I do want to play some of those games, and if certain events pan out in my future, then I will be able to play some of those games. But in general, I just really like. I think the pros attacks are really good. But
yeah, they're really good. But again, the combat in general is just really fun and engaging. Like they have a bunch of little elements too, like animations as well. Even when you're not attacking, like in the idle pose, Mario and Luigi are like dancing whenever it's their turn to choose their option.
Yeah,
like it's always so cute when one of the Mario Bros are down. Like they still have to avoid the attack. So like one of the brothers goes to pick the other one up and help them avoid the attacks, but also the timing is a lot more difficult now because like you're carrying your brother on your back while avoiding all these dangerous attacks.
Yeah, and I love that too, because not only is it because it easily could have, they easily could have just done that and have it be like something else, but the fact that they had you pick up like Luigi, and the fact that like it actively punishes you for being bad at the game is so like cool. Because, like, if you have one of the bros dies and you can't revive them, that's fully on you, because you could have, bought, like,
About the 1-ups.
Yeah, you could have bought 1-ups, or you could have just gotten good. Like, literally, it's a skill issue. And I'm not saying that as, like, someone who's like, oh, I'm so good at this game. That happened to me a lot, and I died a lot because of it. I'm not...
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that for the later portions of the game, especially the final boss.
Oh, no. I'm going to be honest. I do not know how people didn't lose their mind at that final boss. It is one of the most brutal final bosses I think I've ever fought against.
So again, the combat it has a really nice flow to it. I like how bouncy the characters are. Like even the enemies that are attacking you, again, it's very just slapstick-esque Tom and Jerry. I'm gonna keep referencing that just because it's what it is. It's that like rubber hose style of animation.
Yeah,
I really love it. Their characters are always moving up and down. There's nice music chiming in the background. It just always feels like you're really having a fun time in the battle. It doesn't feel stressful, even during times when it is.
Yeah, the music is also a great bit of this game. Like, there's a reason why a lot of people will like meme the battle theme of this game, and that's because it's a banger. Like, I'm thinking of that one video of the Mario Brothers, but they're, you know, that one dude who that does like the dance and he like, I really don't know how to explain it to you, but
I don't know. I think what you're trying to say just though is like the music is something you can easily groove along to. Like I said, it's very bouncy. It's very fast paced, but also like it's very uplifting at the same time.
yeah. And those the slapsticky humor and stuff like that, and those animations really contribute to like the very cartoony feel of the game, and it also helps with a little funny bit thing called power scaling. And Brewer, did you know that the Mario Brothers could beat Sephiroth?
Yes, Connor, I did know. Yes, just like a lot of other silly cartoon characters are kind of omnipotent gods when you think about it. I'd say Mario and Luigi are that as well. They could. Twitter went over this a while ago, but they could solo Sephiroth.
That was
not really solo since it's two of them, but they could duo Sephiroth, I guess.
That was one of the funniest like Twitter trends I had seen in such a long time. I remember I could never find the original tweet, but it was something like Sephiroth seeing his supernova attack getting reflected back at him because they use the hammers.
Yeah, no, honestly, that's how it would go. Because like any of the enemies that have like those big, giant, like kind of supernova attacks, they just like, all right, it's time to press the A button.
All right, time to hit hammer. Bonk.
Yeah, Sephiroth would not stand a chance. No serious foe stands a chance against slapstick humor.
So it's literally like just put Sephiroth over that one Willem Dafoe meme, and it's like Sephiroth watching Luigi use his electric bros attack. It's the Willem Dafoe meme.
Yeah. No, the power scaling is crazy with the Mario Bros. It's very interesting. But yeah, I think last little bit for the combat is just, again, it's great. There's good energy to it. You're always involved, so it doesn't feel boring like a lot of other RPGs. You're never mashing buttons. You have to actually focus. You can't button mash to get yourself out of most situations. You have to make sure you're actively involved with the enemy you're fighting and time your attacks well. And if you do that, you're going to get rewarded. You can damage them, or you can just completely avoid damage yourself. Because heck, you don't even need to go into the item shop in the game if you're skilled enough at the game, which I'm pretty sure speedrunners are.
Yeah, if you're just that much of a god gamer.
Oh yeah, but I think one of our last things though was
the characters and.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the characters in the world of this game, because it adds on to like the goofy humor we've been talking about the whole time.
Yeah, obviously Prince Peasley is, the GOAT.
Yeah, he's very goofy, especially since he's like, oh yes, chums, I'm gonna beat you in this competition, and then he completely flat out fucking loses. He's like, oh damn, but it's fine, I'm gonna wave my hair because I'm fabulous.
You can't play this game when it's like dark, because you're just gonna get flashbanged anytime Prince Peasley comes on screen.
Yeah, anytime he waves his hair back, the screen sparkles up so much that you'll get flashbang, like Connor was saying. At least for the GBA version, since that's the one we played. There is a remake on the 3DS, but the GBA version was more accessible for us because you can actually play that on Switch. So if you guys wanted us to play the 3DS version, go cry to Nintendo.
Yeah. Another thing I really like about Prince Peasley is that I'm 100% reading into it a lot, but a lot of the interactions between him and Luigi are like fruity as hell, and I love that. Yeah, no,
I was actually about to say that, like, Luigi's like, I think he's kind of has a thing for Prince Peasley, because like, minor spoilers, but towards the end of the game, Princess Peach is safe and whatnot. She is like, oh, Mario. And then, like, Prince Peasley comes by it. Luigi is like, oh, Prince Peasley. But he kind of just ignores him, and then Luigi is sad as shit. I was like, damn. Luigi really wanted some action, too.
This is just furthering my headcanon that Luigi is bisexual, and I love that. Because, as someone who is bisexual myself, it's very epic balls.
Yeah, beyond just Mario and Luigi, your regular duo, Mario being just the main brother, just always reliable, and Luigi kind of being scared coward, but he still goes along. He's always lovable. I just loved all the characters so much in general. Like the villains, like they were serious at times, but they were like Cackletta and Fawful. They were just very goofy. Like you had Fawful, who was just a little annoying minion who called you a fink rat a bunch of times for some reason. And then you had Cackletta, who, you know, cackles like an old, ugly bitch.
I mean, I think she is literally supposed to be old. Like her, like I guess her like main form of transport is like a rocking chair that has rockets attached to it.
Yeah, no, she is just kind of an old granny. But she's an evil ass old granny because, god damn, her final boss sucked.
That final boss was, again, we've been talking about it a lot. It is brutal. I died.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end because Jesus.
Yeah, for spoilers.
Yeah, I love the queen as well. It was kind of funny how Mario revived her. Because like I mentioned, Mario has a lot of goofy animations. Whenever he drinks some water, he doesn't just drink water. Like he gets absolutely filled like a balloon.
And
he can spit it out. So you revive the queen by like drinking some like sacred liquid and then spewing it back into her because that's the only way they could really carry it.
Yeah, it's just a great time. Another, okay, I know he was like a side character, but I absolutely loved the like Yoshi theater director.
Oh yeah, the Yoshi theater was great.
I love, like, actually getting the stuff was a little annoying, but I just loved how every time his like assistant would speak out, he would just like he would do a Yoshi's Island reference and then just hit him, and it was amazing every time.
Yeah, that or I like the like little the abandoned ship that was like in a desert that used to be in the
that place is
ocean.
great.
Yeah, because like you had all the crewmates there who were just like skeletons, but then you had like the one big ass crewmate that was like stuck in the wall, and they're like, oh yeah, round up everybody, let's see who can get big fella out of the wall. Like because he was basically a Snorlax.
I was honestly expecting a boss fight at that area that like sort of similar to I think it's either the original Paper Mario or 1000 Year Door, and I know you fight like a big skeleton.
Yeah, I will say at the end of the game, I think I did kind of enjoy that go because like towards the end of the game, like it is still a very short game. Like it's about 17 hours, maybe a little more if you want to get to
18 hours for me.
Extra stuff. But like towards the end of the game, when like you have to revisit some of the old areas to find a couple of new things. Some of the areas you did have like a boss fight or two, but a couple of the other ones you explore it. You do a couple of goofy mini games just to break up the combat monotony, and then usually we'll get like a secret chart. Like we can't spoil it obviously, but you get like an important plot relevant item, and it does involve like, oh well, this thing came out of nowhere. Now you gotta fight it.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love the combat, but you know, after you fought a lot of the same enemies so many times, it felt a little refreshing for some of those to like break it up and do some like goofy Mario stuff instead.
Yeah, and this is like, I'll be honest, this is my one problem with the game, like my one genuine problem that's not a nitpick. I think the boss fights will last way too long, and I know that's sort of, I don't know if it's a hot take, but I know that sort of like people will argue about that of whether or not like short bosses or long bosses are good, because you know if it's the final boss and it takes you 5 minutes, then you know it sort of feels anticlimactic. But I'm being honest, some of these fights legit I think took me like upwards of like 40 minutes sometimes.
40 minutes?
The one of I think there were definitely the end game bosses, but like
okay, the end game bosses make sense.
it was not like it's definitely gets around to the end game bosses, but some of them did genuinely take me a long time, and again I don't know if it's just because, and it's not even that like I was under leveled, because I'm pretty sure like I was leveled for the stuff like that because I was doing pretty well.
Yeah, I will give that to plus to the game. It never felt like I had to grind.
Yeah,
to, like,
I don't think I ever grinded.
Usually if I lost to an enemy or something, it's like, okay, I definitely should have practiced my guard there a little better, or my jump.
Yeah.
Though I will say towards the end of the game, like the bosses, I don't think took were too bad, except some of the final ones. The thing that really grinded my gears the most and that took the longest was like some of the enemies were so tanky, and you had like
Yeah.
hordes of them to deal with.
Yeah, no, I love. Okay, the I think it's like the ice. I'm just gonna call it the ice dungeon.
The Ice Palace, yeah.
The ice palace is a great area, puzzle wise. I think the puzzles are really cool, and they encapsulate a lot of the stuff you've learned over the game, and use it in unique ways. But
But the enemies,
the enemy, like yeah, the combat and the enemies there are, in my opinion, the worst in the game because all the enemies are tanky as balls, and there's so many of them, and they hit so hard that
yeah,
if you make one
that
mistake,
too, and
you're
like there's not a lot of. I mean, I think this was added in the remake to where there was like more points where you could restore your health. Like usually in this game, you get your health restored after like doing some story event, or after like fighting a boss. They would usually restore it for you without telling you.
yeah,
But while you're going through that like big maze in a lot of sections, you have to deal with enemies that are just like hitting you for a lot of damage if you mess up. It's like really punishing towards the end, where you have to use a lot of your items. But also, even using your powerful bros attacks, you still have to do like 2 attacks to even like take out one of the enemies, and sometimes you'll have to deal with like 4 of them at once.
yeah. And I think the puzzles in that area are some of the best in the game. It's just that you have to get through so much tough combat and
I
stuff
think
like
I think it's a weird mix because like some of the encounters, like I found them a bit more challenging than a couple of the bosses, at least a couple of the end game ones. Because like some of the end game ones were like kind of just like I don't want to spoil who they are, but it's just like okay, it's it's devious troop of misfits. You got to deal with each of them one by one, do their silly puzzle and fight them. But you would do like a couple of the bros attacks on them, and they'd kind of go down.
Well, I sort of understand that they're not. It's sort of supposed to be like a marathon sort of thing. So I do understand why they're so weak because you don't want to be spending so much time on.
I get that, but I feel like more so maybe they shouldn't have like been bosses then, because like the last 2 bosses, like holy shit, yeah, those are enough. Those are enough for the final area.
And also, this is going back to the Ice Palace. I legit think that the basic enemies you will find there are harder to deal with than the boss of that area. Like the boss of that area is so easy for how late it is into the game.
Yeah, it was pretty easy, though it is just very tanky. Like it did take a lot of attacks to beat.
And that's another. That sort of goes into why it takes so long. It's just because so many of the bosses are tanky. And I did look this up when after I had beaten the game because I was like, man, that took so long. And the reason is because actually, do we want to get into the final boss now?
Just save it for just a smidge later. It'll be our last rant.
Yeah, I'll save that for later. But in general, I think the game is great, but I do think some of the bosses take a little while, especially when this one boss actually like really pissed me off because the game does. You know how I mentioned earlier how the elemental bros attacks have those secondary effects?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, some of them do critical damage if it's super effective. Like fire is good against the ice monster, that type of stuff.
That I'm okay with not telling the player, but so much other like bros attacks and stuff are explained to you and like how you do in the effects and stuff like that. But they don't tell you about the secondary effects of the elemental bros attacks, which are really good passive effects. And so, there's a boss in that area that if you don't use Luigi's electric attack to lower the defense, it's gonna take you a long time. And that's why that fight took me so long, because I was doing like 4-3 damage to him constantly. And then I find out that if you use Luigi's elemental attack, you lower the defense, and he's taking like 20. I'm like, well, no shit.
Yeah, that certainly would have helped. That for as much of it, they do handhold a lot with some of the tutorials, like literally showing you each and every button you have to press. But then other parts of the game go like completely unexplained. I guess that is like one of the few complaints I have with the game. It's just like some of their weird balancing choices that stuff isn't explained.
I feel like it's definitely like a product of its time, sort of.
Yeah,
thing.
it was the first game. I think some of the stuff did get hashed out in the remake, though that is also controversial because some people don't like the art style as much, and also some people feel like it's too easy with the stuff they added in. But that's conversation for another day. At least for the original game that we played for the Game Boy Advance, it's very good. But it was very much the first game in the series.
Yeah, and again, I can't wait to play some of the future games.
Yeah, same here. Especially with like the amount of like varied locations they had in the world as well. Because like, well, you did have some staples. It was like, okay, you got the desert area, you got the ice area. They also had like the Chuckola Woods. I really like that, and then like Yoshi Theater. Which each of them also have like their fun characters.
Yeah. But
yeah, I think with that though, let's go on to that last rant we've been saving.
Yeah,
like I mentioned, I think one of my issues is like what kind of the build up in the balance, especially with the attack patterns you deal with. I don't think they prepare you for the final boss enough.
Yeah, no, the final boss is, and I am not joking when I say it's probably one of the most brutal final bosses that I have ever
Mario
fought.
and Luigi Dark Souls Edition.
And like, I know there are probably some people who are like, oh my god, and I have fought harder bosses. I have fought Promise Consort Radon pre-patch. So yes, I have fought hard bosses before. But it's not even that it's like super hard. I mean, it is super hard, but it's also just brutal. But I think now would be a good spot for a spoiler warning, because
That's slight spoiler. I mean, it's a very well known fight. We're not going to point out everything in the fight, but just like some aspects of the fight. So
yeah, but again, if you do want to like go in as blind as possible, because that's how I went in. I barely knew anything about this game, even the final boss. I didn't really know.
yeah,
but
spoiler warning. Thank you for watching. Yeah, but I guess going into that, so first thing, like the first phase isn't too bad, but it's when you get to the second phase.
yeah, to
That
quickly
damned
explain,
second phase.
the final boss of the game is, you have a first phase pretty easy. In fact, you can even use the defense lowering, and it makes it a freaking clean sweep. But when you enter the second phase, and it is so much more brutal. It is a boss that has 3 separate HP. Actually, no, 4 separate health bars. One for its two for its arms, and 1 for its head. And then
the main heart that you have to attack to actually beat the boss.
And the heart, I looked this up after I had beaten the boss. The heart has 1200 HP, and when you are doing like on average around 50 damage for bros attacks, and around like I was doing around like below double digits damage for my basic attacks, that is a lot of HP. And it is worse because the only way to damage the heart is to first defeat the arms and the head, all 3 of which have around 200, 300 HP.
Yeah, no, it's a brutal gauntlet, especially because I haven't mentioned this first, but the most notorious thing about that final boss is once you get through the first phase, you get to the second phase, you're immediately put at 1 HP, and you have to survive the boss's attacks, and then heal yourself up, and then you can fight the boss normally.
Yeah.
Which, it's not a short attack string you have to dodge either.
It's
so,
long.
like, yeah, good luck, because if you get hit by even one of those attacks for each of your bros, then you have to restart the whole fight. There isn't a checkpoint for there.
Yeah, no.
You have to just restart that whole first part of the fight.
And then it gets worse, because the longer the fight goes on, the more damage you deal to the heart, the more they will enter, like, I guess, sub phases. It's not like a big cutscene or anything, but the final boss will start introducing new attacks. Like, there's this one where they will freeze time and like shoot lasers at you, and you have to pay attention to the ways the eyes move in order to figure out which one needs to jump and which one needs to stay still, or stuff like that. And then they introduce like these giant supernova like attacks, and then in the third phase I don't even know if I don't even know how to dodge that attack because it was
Some of the attacks just they have tells, but
you're
they're not
so
clear
tight.
enough, especially for how little time you have to react with. Like, there's this one where like the boss swings both of its arms at you, and you have to look at its eyes to see where it's gonna go. But like, that's not something you're gonna catch on to immediately because of how fast they're coming at you,
Yeah.
and you kind of have to focus on the eyes while also just like kind of half timing whenever you're gonna jump or not jump for the arms.
Yeah, and then
I
this
feel
is
like I feel like that's an issue the game has in general. Is like some of the tells for the enemy, because like they tell you at the beginning of the game, always closely watch the enemy to see what they're going to do, to see how you need to dodge or what attack they're going to do. But like the beginning of the game, they keep it super obvious. But like mid game, some of the tells, I'm like, what was I supposed to see with that?
yeah, some of the like end game ones are also just really hard to tell. And
Yeah, that or they come at you so quickly, especially that final boss. That
the
like,
final boss,
oh
it's a
my God.
third phase attack where they summon like a bajillion of these like mini supernovas, and you have like 1 second to react to it in front of you, and it's color coded. But there's so many of them on screen, you can't really notice which ones are color coded, and so it would just appear in front of you, and you have like 1 second to react, and then if you don't react in time, you get hit. And it's not like it'll one and then a second later another one will pop up. They're popping up like consecutively, like barely in between each other, and it's just such it's so hard. And
Yeah,
I wouldn't rag on to this point of the attacks and the tells being super hard to dodge if the fact is that you could literally have the boss at 10 HP left and then die, and then you have to restart that entire fight, which means if you are, not prepared, or you are not, that good at the game, you could be spending literal hours on this fight because you could be getting close to the end and then just have one bad
oh my God.
string of attacks.
Yeah, when I looked up the fight after, because like I was like, this is unusually hard. When I looked up the fight, like it seems like we were not alone, because like there were so many stories of, like people playing this game as a kid, and they're like, yeah, I spent like 2-3 weeks trying to beat this damn boss, because like you need a lot of resources too, because like the attacks they hit you with, they do a lot of damage, so it's not like you can just keep shrugging them off and attack. A lot of times when you do have opportunities to do a lot of damage, you're trying to focus on healing to even survive the fight.
Yeah, and this boss was legit, like really really testing me, because if you don't know, on the Switch there is a rewind function, and I had set as a rule that like very I would very sparingly use rewind. Like the only time I would use it is if I screwed up like a jump and I'd have to do a lot of stuff to get back to that spot. But I tried to never use it in combat. And this boss really tested me because I was like, God, that was terrible, but I can't rewind. And like I'm proud of myself because I didn't rewind all that much. But
Yeah, I think the only thing I did was just like I was tired of doing that one first phase. So like after I beat the first phase normally, I just made a save point there. Like I still had to like do the 1 HP thing, survive through all that, but I was like, yeah, I can very clearly do this first phase. I'm not going to keep wasting my time, because they should have added a checkpoint.
I really should have done that. I completely forget you can also do save states.
Yeah,
But
no, some of these older games, I don't feel bad about using save states in. I mean, sometimes if like I'm rewinding for every attack, I would feel bad. But like adding in a couple of checkpoints where there should have been checkpoints or whatnot,
Yeah.
like the developer should have done this. There's a reason they added these features in. If I
yeah,
didn't need these checkpoints, then this wouldn't even be a feature that they advertise.
yeah, but yeah,
I think with that though, that
Uh,
little rant over.
yeah.
I think
this-
just some small concluding points, because
um,
even with that final boss, this was a fantastic game to play.
no, it's great. It genuinely is like probably one of my more favorite RPGs, and the fact that like I know that there are better Mario and Luigi games, coming out, like either Brothership looks incredible, but I know there's like other Mario and Luigi games that people love, that are really good, and so it's like the fact that I can play more of this style of game that are even better, like it makes me really happy. but this because this game is already amazing, and besides like a few problems and nitpicks I have, I think it's a really great starting RPG.
Oh yeah. Well, except for that final boss, because again, shout out to all the little Timmies there who had to go into that fight, because like,
I cannot imagine doing
God,
this
that
as
was
a
hard.
kid. I genuinely cannot imagine trying to beat that as a kid. Like that just seems like so tough.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. Well, I think overall, though, I think my last closing point on this game is going to be this is a fantastic RPG. It has very involved combat that will always keep you engaged, maybe even with the final boss being a little too engaging. It has some great music. I love the characters, the story, the world. The writing's very humorous. I really love the animations. That's like one of the highlights of this game for me. I love how goofy and silly the animations are, kind of that slapstick rubber hose humor.
Mhm.
Either way, fantastic game. If you have Switch Online, go play it. That, or if you happen to maybe have the original cartridge or the 3DS remake, go play the game. It's a great time.
Yeah, and I don't know all the changes in the 3DS remake, but I'm sure that they didn't change a lot, um, because the base game is already like the base what they're going off of is already so good. But yeah, no, this has been our episode on Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Um, I will definitely be. I don't think I'll get Brothership Day One, but I will definitely be getting it. That is a guarantee.
Oh yeah, I think with that though, if you guys really did enjoy this episode, maybe grab your Mario and Luigi hammers and smash that like and subscribe button.
And use your bros attacks to absolutely pummel the like button.
And
And
the comment section.
yeah, and comment, if you've played this game, or if you want us to cover like a sequel Mario and Luigi game, or hell, maybe we'll even cover a Brothership after it comes out.
But with that, thank you everybody for watching this episode of Fetch Quest. Good night.
Good night.